So we can do a qualitative comparison between Shipmate and what everybody else is using. There's different versions of this box right here, but this is one from Canine Express. I got a shipment in yesterday and I was so unimpressed with it that I wanted to show how poorly these things behave. So, what's the difference? Well, the difference is price, 150 bucks versus 50 bucks. Reusable, not reusable. So although this is quite a bit more expensive, you certainly can cover that cost after you've used the thing 3 or 4 times, you've made your money back. But look, the more important thing about this is which one works and which one's going to cause you problems, because you have a $10,000 stud fee and it doesn't work, you're out the $10,000 and you've got an unhappy customer. So you just don't want to be in this situation. So it's like climbing Everest. Do you go buy a rope from Kmart to climb Everest? No, that's the rope that you use to lash down a lawnmower in the back of a car. You don't climb Everest with it.
Okay, tell people how they get it back, because that's the most questions.
Well, I'll handle all that at the end of it. I'm going to get rolling, but it's a good question. We'll talk about all that. We'll do it at the end. But let's just do a question. Okay, so we're going to load these two up. Tammy, if you take a look at this screen right here. What we're going to do is we're going to load these two up, and what we've got is we've got 2 samples. This is the vial that comes with the Exodus Canine Express product. So we've got a temperature probe on it, and you can see right here, it says 81.1. That if I put my hand on it, it'll go up a little bit. It might take a few seconds. There you can see it rolling out. Okay, yeah. So that's then this is the Shipmate sample. They've both got 6 cc's of water in it. Here's the Shipmate sample, and then if I put my hand on that, you'll see the 79.8 will go up a little bit. It'll take a few seconds. There it goes. So very, very simple. We're not doing this is not a test of motility of semen. That's going to be a different test. This is not a test of the value of the extended we're using. We're just using water because I want to get down to the basics of what these things can do. So, we'll load this one up. So how does this one work? So this one here is basically a styrofoam box. I'm going to pop that up there. Can you see this okay enough, Tammy? I mean, it's not real critical.
I'm short.
Comes with a sleeve. You put the sample, collect the sample, you put the sample into the sleeve. So we're going to do that right now. And we're going to figure out how we're going to do this as we go through here. Because I've got it the wrong hand.
I think they put it, you got it the wrong hand. They do it together.
Yeah, exactly. But I got that temperature probe in that direction. If I'd been smart, I'd have put the thing the other way around. But I'm not, so that's fine. This will work.
Did you say you're not smart?
Not as smart as I need to be. Okay, there we got that one loaded up. Tammy's trying to be funny. So this then goes inside, there's some slots in here. So this then goes inside a slot like that. We'll just push it down in there. So that's loaded up. Then there is a separator board. This is the equivalent of our electronics. That's it. That's it, that goes in there. So that then goes in above this. And then finally what goes in is you get this single block that you put in the freezer, and it's nice and cold. That goes on top. So the way this thing works is that this has got to keep it cold enough, but not too cold that it doesn't freeze the semen, otherwise the whole sample's ruined. Top goes on it.
Does that cord need to be in this area?
We'll make a little dent in a good point. We'll just make a little, I think that's a very good point. We want to make sure we don't cheat.
Yeah.
So we'll just make a little dent here.
Bend it.
There we go. A little dent. So we'll just put a dent through there as well. Just so that cord doesn't interfere with things, which is not.
Okay, move your arm. Your big hand. Wait a second, let them see it. Okay, now.
Top goes on top. Box gets closed up. And by the way, you'll see the temperature start dropping on that one that says Canine Express on the left-hand side. You'll see it dropping here pretty quick.
That one right there.
Yes, that one right there, the one against there. All right. Now, what's the room temperature? It's 80 degrees in here. It's going to be an 80-degree day all day long. It's not really
beautiful outside.
Yeah, it's not a really tough test.
There it goes. It's dropping now.
Not really a tough test for the Canine Express, because this could be in the bottom of a. All right, so let's go to the next one. Here we go. Here's Shipmate. So here's Shipmate. We're going to load up a new battery in it, and the battery costs about $1. And we'll put the little strap on.
Always test the battery.
It tells you right ahead. If it's got a bad battery, it goes red on you.
Oh, okay.
If it's got data and it goes blue on you.
Okay.
There's the current temperature. And this thing logs it. So
it blinks when it's good.
Well, it blinks the current temperature.
Yeah, I know. But if it goes red, it stays red.
Yes.
It doesn't blink like that.
Yes, exactly. So we put that in here. Screw this up. And Shipmate, we use this box here. You can use any box, but this is the box that works really well. These boxes are about $10 on Amazon. You can buy boxes, you don't have to buy them from us. These are the gel packs. They're about, I think it's $13 for 48 of them. They're dirt cheap. All right.
How much is it to ship a box like that?
No, same for both of them. It's going to cost you, if you've got a FedEx account, something between 80 and $100. Typical kind of price anywhere in the US overnight. So we
Depends on shipping time and
where you want, a lot of other, a few other factors. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing
not a flat
here.
rate.
I'm putting this in here. This thing goes inside. It doesn't really matter how you load it up, honestly.
But you've just got the cords there because of the testing.
That's exactly right. Very
I wanted to
good,
make
Tammy.
sure.
Very good.
That's what you need me for, honey.
That's right.
Is to cover the little details that you leave out. That's what women are good for. Detail.
Well, you are good for
Odd
details.
ifs and what ifs and details. That's why we make a good team.
That's right, honey.
Even though you get aggravated at me.
Oh, no.
Huh?
No more than you get aggravated at me or anybody else.
Oh gosh, yes.
Gotta get these ice packs in here. There we go. Get lots of ice packs in here.
Yeah.
Because the
And
more ice packs...
this semen will last for how many days like that?
Well, we'll find out. But the answer is you know, depends on the size of the box. We could do a shipment that lasts we can keep semen alive for up to 10 days. Now, to get that length out of it, you've got to have a bigger box and more insulation.
10 days.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So that goes in here, and now we're just going to move this off to the side, and off goes the test. So
You didn't do an indention for it. Do you need to?
I'll probably open that. Actually, I'll put a couple more ice packs in there because I've got room, but I don't have them here, and I don't want to get off camera to do that. Okay, so we're going to start this doing its stuff here on time lapse.
On the right is Shipmate. On the left is the
the
how you pack it.
Canine Express.
Canine Express. Oh, it says it on there, but you can't see it.
Let me just take that from a second here, and then you can see the back. You can see the actual. There's the actual things, and that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. Yeah. So let's talk about what you want to see here. So what should these things be doing? If they're going to work effectively, they've got to cool it down at a slow rate. 1 degree every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's going to take about 4.5.
These are the actual ones.
Yes.
And these are the
Right.
iPad.
And I need to start my timer too. All right, let me just get back here and start the timer. And off we are running. Okay. This test is going to take days. It won't take days for the Canine Express, but it will for our product. So, what's going on here? So back to, in fact, while you do that, I'm going to go get a couple more ice packs.
Okay, okay. Boy, we had been doing triple digits here. We only get a nice couple of days of this 80, and then we go back up again. But those triple digits of 104 and 108 degrees was ridiculous. I'm so ready for fall.
All right, a little bit more, and we'll put a little dent in this like you suggested. You could have a bit more ice in here, but we're not going to do it.
A bit more ice in there?
Yeah, put enough that'll make it do a good test. Put the indentation on the side. Put the lid on it.
Oh, you did the indentation on the side for the tube? Okay,
Yeah, see here?
Yeah.
So you just don't want that to stop the lid
To
from
bend,
closing properly.
yeah.
Put the lid on it.
Ooh,
Okay.
that dropped on the ground. You're lucky it didn't hit your big toe.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about what we want to see here. So this is what it's a very simple thing these things need to do. They need to let the temperature drop slowly.
And that's what ours is doing.
We will see this. We will see this in
you
action.
see it right now.
Yes, you want to see this drop. It should take about 4 hours to get down to 5 degrees centigrade, or that's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It should take about 4 or 5 hours. If it goes much faster than that, you're in danger of cold shock in the semen. So that's the first problem.
Right.
The next problem is it wants to hold it as close to a temperature that's above freezing but close to it. So that's why we choose this 5 degrees centigrade.
Close that lid.
Yeah, 5 degrees.
So to be fair.
Yeah. Let's put that on top. Let's get that close.
In the comment I made, we did start the express one first before we did.
Yeah, but
Shipmate.
it's by a minute. This test is going to go on for hours. So back to what we're talking about. We want to see a slow drop rate. You can already see this thing's dropping quite quickly.
Yeah.
Then we want it to maintain a temperature of close to whatever the target temperature is. In our case, 5 degrees centigrade. And if it doesn't get down to that temperature, the reason for this is, and I'll go into this in a separate video, but the reason for this is that you're putting things into suspended animation. The closer you get, if you go below freezing, the whole sample is destroyed immediately. So you can't ever let that happen. The closer you get to 0 degrees, the semen slows down, and if you look at it under a microscope at 5 degrees, it stopped moving. And so it's not using up nutrients. So it will last a lot longer. If you don't get it down very cold, then you're going to run out of nutrients fairly quickly. So what's going on? It's kind of like a goldfish bowl. You've got a goldfish in a goldfish bowl. And they're excreting, and they're eating and they're excreting. And as they excrete, they make a nasty cloudy mess in their goldfish bowl, and eventually the goldfish will die. So the sperm, the same situation, they're using up nutrients, they're excreting it, and eventually they will get to the point where they can't live anymore. So what we want to do is slow down their activity as close to not moving at all. And if we can do that, then they will stay alive a lot longer. So I'm predicting that we might get down to, I don't know what it's going to be. When I came in the other day on this sample here, it was 15 degrees centigrade. And I had to do some conversion. I'm not sure what 50 degrees centigrade is. 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Not very cold. So, but again, we will, this is a real test and we'll get to this. I've napped on
not that one, the other box.
This box came
Yeah,
in.
you pointed at the big box.
No, our box is great. Our box, I know what our box is.
Yeah, it was the small box that
our
we
box,
got in.
Yeah, so let's just quickly talk about how this works and see what the difference is. So this system, the Canine Express, works purely through what's called a passive system. There is no control over the temperature. Look, we could have chosen a day where it was 100 degrees outside, which it likely would be in the back of a FedEx truck.
Yeah.
And this will fare even worse than this. It will make a lick of difference to this because this physically controls the temperature in the Shipmate flask. And the way it does it is we surround this with a lot of ice, enough that would kill the Express box. But in this, there is a microprocessor and there is a heater. And what it does is it adds just the right amount of heat to overcome that cold temperature. And it then can control the temperature drop. So it takes 4 hours, 4.5 hours actually to get to 5 degrees centigrade, and it logs every minute of the trip, and you can play it back at the end of the trip. And at anytime you get this, you can open up and it should be flashing 5 times green, and you know you're in good shape.
And it's nice to be able to log that.
Yes, absolutely.
So you know what that temp was.
Well, without that, yeah, exactly. So look, you could have problems. For instance, it goes through customs. In fact, this box here says on it that it was our box, and this came in actually for a sample of ours yesterday, and it says it was inspected. What does that mean? It means they opened the bloody box up. And in our system, if they open the box up and they open this thing up to say, is there drugs in here? No, there isn't drugs in there. I wonder what that is. And they look at it and then they put it back in here and hopefully they screw the lid back on again. This thing's smart enough to know exactly what's going on. And it says, okay, the temperature went up. That's okay. But we're now going to start this slow drop rate again to get down to 5 degrees over the specified amount of time at 1 degree every 20 minutes. And it logs it. You can look at this log when it comes back and you can say, somebody opened it up, they opened it up for half an hour, but it kept on its temperature okay, and it's be fine. If there's a failure in your semen, you can find out what went wrong. Was this because it was handled incorrectly? Was it because the temperature wasn't sufficient? This thing will keep a log of it. It's not like failures can't happen, but they're not going to happen because this thing ain't working. They're going to happen because somebody did something, and you can then see what that was, so that you can then, again, it sounds kind of rude, but point the finger in the right direction and fix the problem for the next shipment. Very rare for us to have any problems, but they can happen.
So, now if they open the other box,
there's
Canine Express.
Well, so here's a problem with Canine Express. You open that box up, you look at it, you take it out, the sample's warmed up, you now stick it back into a cold environment. You don't know what the rate is that it's cooling, because everything else inside that box is all nice and cold. So you look at this already. This has dropped 1 degree. So it was at 80. This has dropped 7 degrees. That's a 7-fold increase in drop rate. A 7-fold increase in drop rate. This is going to suck. I can tell you this is going to suck. But again, before we declare that the test is over, so then the next thing, and the last part about this is how long can it keep it there for? Look, most shipments last 24 hours. Sometimes they're over the weekend. Sometimes something goes wrong and they get delayed by a day.
And these days it's delayed.
It wants to go to Hawaii, and it might take an extra day because it's going to go to one of the small islands. All of these things, typically, they can very often run into a 2, maybe even a 3-day trip. I've had trips that have gone out on a Friday, FedEx got it messed up and it didn't get there till a Monday. It's still absolutely fine. So this
but
is...
you're called and told, and you're able to send another shipment.
If necessary,
and it gets there, and then the other one arrives all good.
No, absolutely. So that, you know, there's two things going on here. There's knowing there's a problem and fixing it, right? So, you know, it's all about timing at the other end. But the great thing about this is, if I'm correct about what I'm telling you, which I'm going to be, that this is going to be good for 2.5 days, you can ship things a day early if you need to, and they can then stick this in the fridge, put this flask in the fridge, and you can keep semen alive in this for 10 days in the fridge with the right extender. Now, I don't like keeping semen alive for 10 days, don't get me wrong here. It's not going to be as good after 10 days as it was the day that you shipped it, but if you need to do that because a dog stalled out, that's still on the table. All right, what else should I be telling you, Tammy, other than that we're wonderful?
Yeah.
This is the extender we use, by the way.
I still have a couple of puppies that are fluffy carriers.
But let's not talk about that right now on this one. Sorry, this is a technical one.
Oh.
Okay, so there's Canine Plus. This is the extender that we think is fantastic. I will do another test of just extenders, and I'll do another test with actual live semen that you can see the effect of various different extenders over the hours. Okay. Right, so let's look at the results. Shipmate versus the Canine Express. Canine Express. All right, so like I predicted, I didn't think this thing would get below 50, and it didn't. So what we've got here is a graph of the number of days we ran the test, which was about 3 days, a little bit less, versus the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So what's important about this graph? Well, look, we want to keep the semen below 50 degrees, and preferably as close to freezing, which would be 32 degrees, as we reasonably can, without it ever crossing that line. If it crosses that line and the semen freezes, we're in big trouble. So, you know, there's about, you know, there's a gap here that's acceptable. But the critical part about it is that we can make sure that we're keeping it there and it's not drifting around. All right, so what happened? Okay, so first off, the Canine Express, it got down very, very quickly, which can cold shock semen. And luckily it didn't get down in here, otherwise it probably would have cold shocked it. You want to take about 4 hours to get down to the target temperature. So Canine Express got it down to 50 degrees. It held it at 50 degrees for about a day. It was like 53 here. And then it went on a slow climb up till it got back up to basically room temperature. And this test was done when the temperature outside has been around 80 degrees. It could be a heck of a lot hotter than this. Now, if it's a 100-degree day and you're at the back of a FedEx truck, then you could experience temperatures of 120 degrees. And it would make this whole thing much worse for Canine Express. It would have never got down to 50. So, you know, let's compare that with Shipmate. Of course, you know, my product, I'm biased. But Shipmate, it has a controlled drop. You know, we get it down fairly quickly, down to about 80 degrees centigrade. And then we change the rate that it drops to 1 degree every 20 minutes until it gets down to 5 degrees centigrade, 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And it got down to about 38, I think was the lowest it got to. But it maintained that temperature, 40 degrees, for 1.5 days. And even after 2 and almost a half days, it was still within the target range of 50 degrees centigrade. This is a huge difference. So the problem is that if you look at semen that's at this kind of temperature, it's not moving. It's not using up, I mean, it's still alive, But I mean, you might see a little wiggle in it every now and then when you look at the sperm, but it's basically a suspended animation. Versus at these temperatures above, they're trucking around pretty good, especially when you get up in here, they're trucking around like crazy. That means that they are using energy up. That means that they're using up the nutrients that you provided in the shipping flask. And that means that they will get to basically a toxic situation, kind of like a goldfish in a goldfish bowl that has never had its water changed. Eventually get to the point where it's in a toxic water and the goldfish no longer survives. It's exactly the same thing with the sperm. They are using up nutrients, they are secreting the byproducts, that then makes the fluids that they're in not very nice, and eventually they die. So, you know, if you're doing a shipment that lasts for a day, you'll probably get away with it with the cheapo package, so the $40 to $50 package. But if it goes beyond that, you are in serious trouble. And when do you know that that's going to happen? You know, you ship something out, it's supposed to be there the next day. Wonderful. Until something goes wrong. There's a breakdown, there's a delay. Whatever it is, it doesn't get there for 24 hours later. And 24 hours later, you're in big trouble with Canine Express. You're still within the safe zone with Shipmate. And I routinely ship to places like Hawaii. And if you go to or I ship out on a Saturday by post office to get there on a Monday, those kind of trips are not going to make it with Canine Express. So why would you want to use Shipmate? Because it is 3 times as expensive. Well, it just flat works. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to go climb Everest, but I can buy a rope at Walmart for 20 bucks, or I can buy one at Calaveras or some place like that for 150 bucks. Which one are you going to use? Well, you're going to use the expensive rope if it really matters. And also remember that Shipmate, you know, it's reusable. You know, this thing's not a throwaway device. Like the Exodus, Exodus breeding Canine Express box, that's a throwaway item. With our product, you just put a return sticker label on it and you get everything back. And then think about why this is actually working versus not working. Let's look at the actual details of what's going on with this box. So here's the problems with this box. I mean, the good thing about it is it's cheap. Don't get me wrong. That's its main quality, is it's cheap. That's all it's got going for it. As far as the cost of shipping things in either of these boxes, it's all what's called dimensional weight. Our box is going to be about 7 pounds, it's going to be about 4 pounds, but that's not going to make any difference to your shipping cost because it's all about dimensional weight. It's all about the size of the box. So in this one here, you have, you know, same idea. You have an insulated box, and then you have an ice pack. Well, here's the first problem. This ice pack is not enough ice. It runs out around here. You can see where it's starting to warm up. It runs out about there. It's not a big enough ice pack. That's the first problem. And the second thing is the only way that you have to regulate the temperature from freezing the semen is this little piece right here. Of course, the semen itself sits inside this and goes in. So that's what keeps it. So this is their electronics. That's it. That's the electronics. So the problem is you never know what the actual temperatures are going to be. You know what the temperature of this is. This is at freezing. That's fine. The problem is the outside of the box that you know nothing about. It could be 120 degrees. It could be 32 degrees outside. It could be colder than that. And that's why they cannot, if they make this so it gets cold, and then in a really cold environment, it goes down below this line and freezes everything. So their compromise is to get this thing to basically 50 degrees and call it good. And, you know, I make fun here, but I read the label here and it says, the #1 universal disposal semen transport box on the market. What it should say is the #1 not very effective disposable semen transport box on the market. That's what it should say. Because if you're serious about what you're doing, and I'm sure most of you are, and for instance, I just did a breeding the other day, $25,000 stud fee for one I did an out-of-house breeding. I want to make sure I've got that semen in the best possible way. If the semen shows up in that, and I'm up in here, the problem is the semen's lost a lot of its energy. And when it gets woken up, it's already woke up here anyway, when it gets woken up, it's still going to travel a day. It's got to make a day's travel to get from where you deposited up to where the eggs are. And you don't want semen that's just, oh, I feel terrible, I can hardly move. That's what it's like when it gets up in here and it's been there for too long. it's seriously damaged. It's like, you know, trying to run a marathon when you've got your legs tied together. Versus this product here, Shipmate, our product, we have electronics in here that controls the temperature inside this box. And by the way, that also records it all so you can play it back. You saw the playback on it, so you can verify what happened. And then we put this in a box with a lot more ice around it. If we put their system with that much ice around it, it would freeze it right away and that'd be the end of it. They can't do that. We can put this into a giant box, and I've done this, shipping to, you know, places that are a long way away, like Malaysia, where it might take 4 days. Absolutely can be done. You just got to put it in a bigger box so you've got more insulation so the ice disappears or thaws out slower. That's it. This will then maintain it. I mean, we can make things where this graph goes on all the way off to the other end of the room if you put it big on. I've done tests for 10 days. With this for 10 days, it's just a question of having a big enough box with enough ice in it so the ice stays cold until we get to the very end of the trip. So there it is. I mean, you know, to me this is, honestly, I mean, look, I don't know what we're at now, 7,000 personally, for us, 7,000 shipments with this without problems, versus, I just got 2 of these in. I got 2 of these in, and they both sucked. You saw that little brief video. The last one was at 65 degrees. That was after less than a day. It's up here, 65 degrees. It's rubbish. I'd throw it away. I wouldn't use it. Anyway, there we go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate people who subscribe to me. It helps me, encourage me to do more of these videos. But do remember, disclaimer here, I am not a vet. I'm not a licensed medical professional. I'm purely a person who's been breeding dogs for the last couple of decades. Any information that you got from this video, use at your own risk. There's nothing implied here, and certainly this should not be used as a substitute for advice from your veterinarian or your medical professional. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come back for more of them. Bye.